It's a lovely October afternoon down here on our farm. Now, the farm we bought in two bits. The first bit was a two acre field that we bought 3 years ago, and we thought at that point, wow, this is enormous, this can be far more than we need, and we'd struggle to deal with it all. And we very rapidly filled it with sheep and goats. And we decided that because the neighbouring two fields were up for sale, we'll buy them as well. So we now have 17 acres and 2 allotments and a garden. So we're going to give you a tour of everything except the garden. You don't need to see that because we don't use that for growing food. But we're going to show you the farm and show you the animals. So welcome to the self-sufficiency farm tour for autumn 2022. Right, this is one of the 3 interconnected paddocks where we keep the nanny goats, and on the next paddock you can see the Hebridean sheep. So they all mix up together, and at the moment 6 of the 9 sheep, there are 9 goats. No, actually I can see the 4th one there. So 5 of the 9 goats are in the next paddock. These are 2 of the nanny kids that were born earlier this year. So the first one on the right, the black one, is called Star, and behind her is Snow White. And on the other side of our wood pile is the mother of Snow White there. So this is Florence, and she's the boss, and she's also, when she wants to be, she can be very friendly. The crabapple tree here is very, very productive, as you can see, so we'll be collecting up a lot of these crab apples. In fact, I'm slightly surprised that they haven't all been eaten, but I suspect it's simply because the crop has been so abundant this year that there's plenty of them left. Right, the black baby, well, not baby, she's a kid that's just arrived. So that is Seren. So you can see she's almost a double of Star, but Star has one big white splotch on her head. Seren has 2, and Seren also has floppier ears as well. Well, as you can see, we haven't finished chopping up all the branches that we've collected. There's still loads to do. This was quite a neat pile here until the goats got onto it, but we've still got loads of firewood to chop up and put into the proper storage. As you can see, some of it's already done there, but there's lots of it still to do. But this will be keeping us warm throughout the winter. That is the oldest of our goats at this spot. She was our first baby that was ever born on our allotment, and she's about 6 years old now. I think she's bitten off more than she can chew. Well, that wasn't a sight I was expecting to see, but it seems as though Florence is still letting Snow White suckle. I would have thought far too old for that, but she's, yep, that did surprise me. Right, she's very friendly. Right, so this is our middle paddock, and the goats have followed me through. So, we've got the 9 nannies in here, and then through in the next field, we've got, or next paddock, we've got the Hebridean sheep. Now we were given these in January, and they are all ewes. The person who gave them to us was moving house, and she had nowhere to put them, so she asked me or through a friend if we would have them, and I said yes. What we need to do is actually find a Hebridean ram. We've looked around for one, but not in any particularly focused way. So time is starting to run out on this, so we're going to have to start the search proper to get a ram for them, or else this lot will not be producing any lambs next year. Snow White here, along with Seren and Star, and Florence the mum, and Bubble, another of the 2 black ones. Will hopefully next year be our milking herd for the farm here, and we've also got a billy goat lined up for them, but they still have quite a bit of growing to do yet, so certainly Bubble and Florence could be mated with the billy. It may be that we've got to leave 3 kids here another year before they're fully grown, ready for mating. We've been collecting large quantities of apples for the poultry. People have been swapping them with us. They've got a tree in their back garden, and it's got tons of fruit on it, and it's been a good year for the apples anyway, but people don't want their apples to go to waste, so they swap them with us for jars of jam. So it means that we've got a good supply of feed for the poultry throughout the winter. The poultry get pellets as well, but we've been able to cut in half the quantity and therefore the cost of the pellets that we feed them. It helps us get to be that much more self-sufficient. It's all very well saying we're self-sufficient in eggs, but if you're buying in the feed for them, then you're not really self-sufficient. So we're that step closer, and also in the cost of living crisis that we're all experiencing at the moment, then that helps as well, if we're not having to pay a huge sum of money for the poultry feed. Right, this is our hay field, so this is again part of the new land that we bought earlier this year. Our land goes up to the tree line there, so the woodland is in somebody else's ownership. But as you can see, this is a very big field. It's 9 acres. Up on the middle of the screen towards the top, those trees, they mark the boundary with the next farm. And the blue tarpaulins cover our hay crop. So we've got a huge hay crop off here this year. It was 840 bales, which is way more than we needed, but it means we've got loads and loads of hay for the winter, so we never have to buy another bale of hay. So we've got 7 haystacks, and we've gradually started using it. Right, this is field 1. This is the field that we bought 3 years ago, and it's where we keep our Texel and Suffolk sheep. They keep the grass under control quite well in this field, but I had been concerned about the amount of grass that we could get growing given how dry and sunny everything was this year. The ground was quite parched, but over the last few weeks we've had a reasonable amount of rain. Apparently, according to the Met Office, we were above average for September, so that helped, and the grass is growing well, and as indeed it is over on the hayfield and where we keep the nannies as well. So there's plenty of feed for them, and we are still, however, thinking about moving them into the next field. This is Rex. He's our breeding ram, and he's as soft as carrots and he loves his foot. But over the fence there is our field 2. It's been cut at the bottom, as you can see, but we haven't cut the top, so that's still a job to do. Won't be able to make it into hay. Might be able to use it for bedding, but it's just the wrong time of year to be cutting it for a hay crop. But we've got more hay than we need. But as you can see, the rest of our sheep are here in this field. Right, we use this paddock on field 1 for growing the potatoes. Well, we did grow the potatoes this year. Still loads of them to come in, so at some point we'll do that. We've got a few leeks growing here, and then these marrows started growing, so somehow the seeds got mixed up into the manure. The manure was from our friend Steve's pigs, so we think he's been feeding them marrows. So if there's any marrows to pick, I'll get them when we get the potatoes in. There's 1 or 2 tomato plants growing in here as well. This is the paddock at the top of field 1 where we keep our billies, and there they are. So we've got on the left, that's Ramesses, and then we've got Sunny, and behind him is Perky. And we've still got lots of Christmas trees to chop up for firewood. We put these in January so that the goats could eat the branches and the bark. And the plan is to chop these up and get them into the wood store at some point, but it's a job that keeps getting pushed down on the priority list. So this is Ramesses. He was born here last year, in the summer last year, so he's grown up into this absolutely beautiful, magnificent billy goat. So he'll be used for breeding this coming year. This is Sunny, who is 5 years old, and he's normally the boss, but he comes armed with very large horns. And this is Perky. He used to be our main breeding billy, and he's the father of the three kids that we saw earlier. But he's now retired from that because he's taking over. This is field 2. As you can see, we haven't yet got round to cutting the top off of it. As I say, if we do manage to get it cut, we'll probably just use it as bedding for the goats and the sheep. We cut it further down, and would you believe it, after that lovely hot dry summer, the moment we tried to cut the bottom, it rained, so we kind of lost the crop there, but some of it we've been able to feed to the goats and the sheep, but most of it we're just going to have to rake up and just let it turn into compost. Right, this is the top of field 1. The hedge there is the property boundary, and we've let the sheep onto here because we wanted them to eat away at the grass and everything else growing up here, because my plan is ultimately to use this for arable for growing crops, and the sheep will do an excellent job of eating their way through all of this stuff. So we're right up at the top of the farm now on field 1. This hedge we cut back earlier this year. In fact, we're doing it during the winter months because it was actually grown right out and was encroaching onto the footpath, the public footpath. We can just about make out the track here. And the path itself crosses over into field 2 here. And as you can see, our next job, or at least a forthcoming job, is to cut back the hedge here as well. This is the boundary between our land and the next farm. And what I also want to do is to gather in the hillberries. As you can see, there's lots of them, and they're nice and ripe, so we can use them for making jellies, but also they're good for chicken feed and poultry feed generally. But you can see there's a lot of work needs to be done to get the hedge cut back, and we'll also get it properly fenced as well, so the livestock netting that we've got, it can go along this hedge here, so that we can then put the sheep into this field. But this is field 2. It's not as big as the big hay field, but it's still big. This is 5 acres. So I'm at the top of our hayfield now, our main hayfield. It's quite level here. Now as you can see, the woodland there, that is the boundary, and there are an awful lot of overhanging branches, some of which were very dead, so we've gradually been chopping them up and using them as firewood. But as I say, the top of the field is flat, and then it starts to slope down. So the bank, the slope of it, is actually north facing. So it's not so good for growing crops. If it was south facing, it would be much better, but sadly that's not to be. But it was fantastic for the hay crop. I'm still staggered at how much hay that we got off here. And the good thing is, even though there was really dry weather and dry conditions, the grass started growing back straight away. So when this field was cut, it was a yellow-brown colour, and then within just a couple of weeks it was green. So we should get another hay crop off this next year, but of course we've now bought the equipment to actually cut the hay, so we don't need to rely on somebody to come in to do it for us. But as you can see, that is the rest of the hay field. You see my pickup truck at the bottom there, and that's again, that's on the edge of the farm, and you've also got the hay stacks there. So I should gently zoom in to them. So that's over 800 bales of hay. We've obviously used a reasonable number since we cut it, but we've got plenty of feed to keep the animals going through the winter. Not just hawthorn in our hedgerows here, we've got roses as well, and these rose hips are still quite firm, and we're planning to pick them, and again this will be another feed for the poultry. Right, more crab-apple trees in the hedgerows, that's always useful. We have a number of areas where we actually want to plant hedgerows, and we're looking to see what's available. We spotted something from the Woodland Trust recently, so one of our jobs for next year, get some more hedges planted. The thing about hedges is they provide shelter for livestock, but also they're really good for the wildlife, and the produce from them is quite significant as well. We can use it to feed ourselves or feed our animals. So the more hedges we've got, the more productive we are on our farm. Our friend Rory keeps his bees here, and he's been expanding the number of hives that he's got. Bees are quiet today. We keep 2 hives here on the farm, but they're way off on the other side of the site. This is the back of my pickup, and it's full of sacks of muck. It's mainly chicken muck, and we've been cleaning out the hen houses and so on. And obviously this stuff makes excellent compost, and we've already brought other sacks of it down. And as you can see, we have an endless supply of muck, and you can see here these are boxes, slate boxes. So if you ever have your garden paved with paving stones, they come in boxes like this, so they're really tough, really tough, and they make excellent raised beds. So we're going to be filling these with compost, and we just add more boxes to the line along the edge of the field here, and we'll be using these for growing salad crops. The ground here is level, it's not north facing, so it's okay it's good for growing crops, and we'll just keep adding them along the bottom of the field here past Rory's hives until we get to the woodland. The boxes are lined with animal feed sacks, and they're simply stapled into place, and we'll probably put cardboard in the bottom. We've got some in the next one, so we need to strip the tape off, but we'll put the cardboard in as well. That rots away, and the bags of muck, and the muck will just rot down as well. Make an absolutely fantastic compost. Right, so that's the farm. It's not a big farm, only 17 acres, but it's not something which 5-6 years ago we ever thought we'd ever be in a position to take on, but we now have done, and it has been quite an experience for us. But of course it's not the whole of our project, because we've got 2 allotments, and we've had one of those allotments for 16 years and one of them for about 8 years. So what we're going to do next is go and have a look at them. This is our far side allotment. I've got 2 allotments, the far side one and the near side, and the far side one is the furthest from our house, where it's only a 2-minute walk. Obviously the near side one is 1 minute's walk from the house, but this is the allotment where we grow a lot of our soft fruit. So we've got lots of gooseberry bushes here, and we've got strawberries in the raised beds, and black currant and red currant bushes here. So more raised beds with strawberries in. We got some little beehives here as well. The middle one is an active colony. The ones on either side, sadly, no bees in them. And then over there we've got more raised beds. And down here, it's a bit overgrown here, but you'll spot things like sage and oregano. We've got, amongst the herbs here, we've got fennel growing, and the seeds have a bit of an aniseedy flavour to them. It takes a few moments for it to kick on with that. There it goes. As you can see, we have an awful lot of fennel. And there's a great big compost heap over there. Next to it, this is the rhubarb patch, but since we've picked the rhubarb, we kind of let it go a bit. So it's got a bit overrun with nettles and comfrey, so we'll need to give this a good tidy up soon. And it's a huge rhubarb patch because it's all the way from the raised beds there down here and right the way down to another spare hive there. So always got a good rhubarb crop from here, but yeah, that's basically by the summer that's it. You pick it, it's no more till the following year. So more soft fruit here. As you can see, the leaves are enjoying autumn and going yellow. Behind it we have Jerusalem artichoke, so it's the roots or the tubers that you eat. One of my favourite vegetables. Absolutely love them. Gorgeous roasted. Right, we got this dismantled shed a few years ago now, and we never reassembled it. So we're going to have to decide what to do with these because it's taking up an awful lot of ground. So we could try and cannibalise it, which I think is probably the best thing, and turn it into some kind of hen house. We've planted a few fruit trees a few years ago on this allotment, and this year we got a reasonable amount of fruit from them. But the best tree for fruit is this apple tree. It's had its crop. It's we have to wait for these ones to drop to the ground because it's the tree so high we just never get able to reach them. So as you can see, lots of apples on the ground. Now don't worry about the ones that have gone brown because they're bruised and bashed. We wouldn't be eating them ourselves anyway, but the chickens love them. So this is part of our source of chicken feed. And then there we have another hive. That is a live hive. It was taken over by a swarm that found its own way there in the summer. So we didn't have to do anything to get that. We just had to have an empty hive waiting for them. So I've got lots of kindling here, and I'll plan these at some point soon to build an outdoor oven, and this would be perfect fuel for it. This is our secure paddock. There's a number of times you've had to put goats in here when they've been making escape attempts. But now we use it for Rhode Island red chickens. So here they are. And at the moment, none of our chickens, well, not quite none, but only 2 of our chickens are laying because they're all molting heavily, very heavily. So I've never known a molt like the one we've got this year. And it means that when they molt, they don't produce eggs because all that energy goes into growing new feathers instead. Well, this is the cockerel. Seems to be interested in my coat and my knees. Well, we've got more branches in here that need to be chopped up. A few logs as well. A lot of this will be kindling, but Some of it we can use on a wood-fired stove because it's got a good thickness to it. And some of these, I think we're just going to have to split them after we've chopped them up. But as you can see, this plus what we've got up on the farm will keep us in fuel for the whole of the winter and right into the spring. Right, I'm now heading to the near side plot. Now, that allotment and the other one are on the Winnie's Community Garden, which is that's the gateway to the garden there. But my allotment is down the bottom here, and this is where the self-sufficiency project started back in 2006. So we've been on this site for 16 years now, and initially this is where everything was. So we kept all our chickens here, our goats, and we had our flower beds here, our vegetable beds. We've got the fruit cage, we put a pond in for the ducks, so everything, absolutely everything was here. And then we found that keeping livestock along with vegetable beds and so on wasn't a good mix. So that's why we ended up with the second allotment to keep our for fruit and veg growing. So anyway, we're going to go in now. You would have heard the chickens and ducks have realised that we're here. They've been fed for the day. They get fed twice. First time in the morning and then second time around about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. So they've had their feeds for today, so they're just being greedy at the moment. So in the allotment here, a lot of the birds are free range. They're just going down around the allotment as they please. We have, I'm not quite sure the exact numbers, but that there are some 65 to 70 birds that live within the free range area of the allotment. And then, past the incinerator, we have the fruit cage here. So we've converted this into a run, and as you can see, our buff orpingtons are in here, but also we've got a hen with 12 chicks here as well, and these were chicks that were hatched in the incubator in the late summer. So the mother there, that's the red one, she adopted them. And then if we head around here, we've got a big hen house on the left here. It was built originally as a goat house, but obviously we don't have the goats here anymore because they're on the farm. And then over on the paddock, the run that we've got here, we've got some bigger chicks, these ones here, and these ducklings. Now the ducklings were hatched by a duck who had the eggs underneath one of the sheds, and then at the moment they hatched, she abandoned them, so we ended up raising these by hand. So they've grown very quickly, so I think it was August they hatched. Well on the way to being adults now. The one bit of kit that we kept here for growing fruit and veg is the greenhouse full of tomato plants. It wasn't going to be easy to dismantle it and move this, so it was staying. But next to it, we've got 3 hives. The left one, there's nothing in there. There was a swarm put in it, but it didn't survive. The middle one was swarm we picked up in Stanley, which is a few miles up the road from us. Really, really strong colony, doing really well. And on the right, that has a colony in it, which is, well, a fairly good colony. We're quite pleased with it. This is our quail house, and we had some eggs, some chicken eggs hatch in the incubator a few weeks ago, and we didn't have an adoptive mother for them, so we put the chicks into here with the quail, and basically they have now outgrown it. These chicks have grown at a remarkable speed, so we're going to be rehousing these chicks shortly, probably with the buff orpingtons and the hen with the 12 chicks there. As you can see, we've still got a stack of logs here that need to be chopped up, and it came from this tree here. This was pollarded for us by a tree surgeon, and this autumn we're going to have this big oak tree pollarded as well, so it'll be reduced in height and all of the branches taken off, but it won't be chopped down. It'll be brought down to about half the height it is now, but it'll then be left to grow again. This is the final room that we've got on here, and this is where we keep the columbines. That's Columbus, columbine cockerel. There's one of the hens behind them, and we've got one or two other birds in here. That's Amber. He's been with Columbus since he was a chick, so they don't fight. They're both cockerels. And we've got, there's one of the Rhode Island red chicks, which is with its adoptive mother, which is the Buff Orpington there. And there are two others in here. There's one and there's the other, and they'll be joining the other Rhode Island reds on the far side in the very near future. Well, that's it. That's a bit of a whirlwind tour of the allotments and our farm. As you can see, we've got loads of work to do, but we are up to the challenge, and we have been doing this for many years. And the project has just kept on growing and growing. 16 years ago when we started out, we never thought we'd have a farm. We never thought we'd have two allotments. One allotment was quite enough for us at that point, but as I say, the project just kept on growing. So we'll do another tour of the farm and the allotments in the winter, so hopefully you'll join us then.